he did not adequately prepare for the fact that there was a camera there. And so it tells me that he is not a sophisticated offender, a sophisticated criminal who was extremely forensically and criminally sophisticated. He was sort of bumbling his way through this, and he made other mistakes. And I believe those mistakes will directly lead to his capture. The blood spatter evidence shows me that he did not wrap up her body and carry her out. She was alive. She did cough up blood right outside the front door.
For nearly 100 days, investigators have searched for answers in the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie. But what if the biggest mystery isn't just who took her? What if the real story is what investigators may have missed during the first critical hours? Tonight we're breaking down the surveillance footage, the alleged crime scene mistakes, the FBI involvement, the DNA evidence, and the disturbing questions now surrounding the entire investigation. Because according to crime experts discussing the case publicly, one overlooked detail may have changed everything. A suspicious figure. Possible evidence of violence. A reported conflict between federal authorities and local investigators. And a timeline investigators still cannot fully explain. As this case continues drawing national attention, people are asking one terrifying question. Was the truth hidden in front of investigators from the very beginning? Stay until the end of this documentary, because the final details surrounding Nancy Guthrie's disappearance may completely change the way you see this case. Nearly 95 days after Nancy Guthrie disappeared, the investigation continues to generate intense public attention across news platforms and true crime communities online. What began as a missing person case has now evolved into a larger debate involving forensic evidence, surveillance footage, and growing criticism surrounding the handling of the investigation during its earliest hours. One of the biggest questions being discussed publicly involves the condition of the crime scene itself. According to crime experts featured on Crime Stories with Nancy Grace, investigators allegedly encountered signs suggesting possible violence near Nancy's property. Reports discussed publicly referenced blood evidence and indications of a struggle during the initial response after Nancy disappeared. But controversy quickly followed. Some investigators and forensic analysts questioned whether the scene had been secured quickly enough during the first critical hours of the case. Others publicly debated whether the seriousness of the situation may initially have been underestimated before authorities recognized the possibility of an abduction. At the same time, online speculation surrounding Sheriff Chris Nanos and the investigation intensified rapidly. Social media discussions and commentary videos began questioning whether investigative decisions made during the earliest stages could have affected the collection or preservation of evidence. Authorities, however, continue insisting the investigation remains active and ongoing. Federal investigators reportedly became increasingly involved as surveillance footage, forensic evidence, and digital records began shaping the timeline surrounding Nancy's disappearance. According to reports discussed publicly, Google-assisted surveillance footage reportedly helped investigators identify important activity connected to the night Nancy vanished. Now, with public pressure growing daily, investigators continue searching for answers, while every new detail fuels even more questions. But among all the theories surrounding the case, one disturbing possibility continues dominating online discussions. Could critical mistakes during the earliest hours have changed the entire investigation? If you're following this true crime documentary, make sure you like the video, share your thoughts respectfully in the comments, and subscribe. As investigators searched for answers in Nancy Guthrie's disappearance, surveillance footage quickly became one of the most important parts of the investigation. Authorities reportedly reviewed recordings from nearby homes, street cameras, and digital sources connected to the area surrounding Nancy's property. Then investigators reportedly discovered footage that changed the direction of the case. According to reports discussed publicly, federal investigators received critical surveillance evidence through Google that allegedly helped establish movements and activity from the night Nancy disappeared. Detectives reportedly focused heavily on a suspicious timeline involving movement near the property during the overnight hours. Crime analysts discussing the case stated that the footage raised serious questions about whether the disappearance was random or carefully planned. Investigators reportedly examined whether the person connected to the suspicious activity understood the area, the camera locations, and Nancy's routine before the disappearance occurred. Meanwhile, public speculation exploded online. People following the case analyzed screenshots, debated timestamps, and questioned whether authorities had missed important clues hidden within the footage. Despite the theories, investigators continued warning the public against spreading false claims that could interfere with the case. As the investigation expanded, detectives reportedly began comparing the surveillance timeline with phone records, witness statements, and forensic evidence collected during the first days after Nancy vanished. And according to investigators, another disturbing issue soon emerged: questions surrounding how the investigation itself was handled. If you're following this documentary, make sure you like the video, share it with others interested in true crime investigations, and subscribe. As national attention surrounding Nancy Guthrie's disappearance increased, public discussion began shifting toward growing tension between federal investigators and local authorities. Crime experts appearing on television and online programs openly discussed disagreements involving Sheriff Chris Nanos and federal agencies assisting with the investigation. According to those reports, some investigators allegedly believed certain forensic procedures and evidence handling decisions may have slowed critical progress during the earliest stages of the case. One of the biggest controversies reportedly involved DNA evidence. Analysts discussing the case claimed federal authorities wanted rapid forensic testing performed on certain evidence connected to Nancy's disappearance. Reports also suggested disagreements emerged involving transportation of evidence for advanced analysis. Those claims quickly spread across social media. Some viewers accused investigators of mishandling the case, while others defended law enforcement and argued authorities were operating under intense pressure with limited information during the first critical hours. Meanwhile, investigators reportedly continued reviewing witness statements, digital evidence, and surveillance footage connected to the timeline from the night Nancy vanished. Authorities repeatedly emphasized that the investigation remained active and that detectives continued pursuing leads daily. But public frustration continued growing. Many people following the case believe the first hours after Nancy disappeared may have been the most important period for preserving evidence and identifying suspects. As online discussions intensified, another detail connected to the investigation suddenly drew major attention. A location less than 2 miles from Nancy's home that investigators reportedly continued examining closely. And according to reports, the area may contain evidence still capable of changing the case. If you're enjoying this documentary series, make sure you like the video, share your thoughts respectfully below, and subscribe because the next chapter uncovers the disturbing discovery connected to the Tucson water property. As investigators continued searching for Nancy Guthrie, attention reportedly shifted toward a gated Tucson water municipal property located approximately 1.5 miles from Nancy's home. According to investigator Dave Mack, the location became important after reports surfaced involving a possible heat signature detected by NASA satellite technology on February 7th, less than a week after Nancy disappeared. That revelation immediately shocked people following the investigation. Crime analysts discussing the case questioned whether the area had been thoroughly searched during the early stages of the investigation. Others wondered whether the thermal detection could somehow be connected to Nancy's disappearance. Authorities have not publicly confirmed what caused the reported heat signature. However, the location reportedly remained an area of concern for investigators reviewing possible search zones connected to the case. As those discussions spread online, public speculation intensified rapidly. People debated whether evidence connected to Nancy's disappearance could still exist somewhere within the property. Others questioned whether the reported satellite detection had any connection to the case at all. Meanwhile, investigators reportedly continued comparing forensic evidence, surveillance footage, and witness statements while searching for new leads. At the same time, another major question continued dominating online discussions. Who was the individual reportedly captured near the property during the overnight timeline investigators were reconstructing? And according to crime experts discussing the case publicly, identifying that person may be critical to solving the mysteries surrounding Nancy's disappearance. If you're following this documentary, make sure you like the video, share it with fellow true crime viewers, and subscribe. As investigators reviewed surveillance footage connected to Nancy Guthrie's disappearance, one disturbing image reportedly continued drawing attention from both authorities and the public. A suspicious individual. According to reports discussed publicly, surveillance footage allegedly captured a person moving near the area connected to Nancy's home during the overnight hours investigators were examining closely. Crime experts analyzing the footage suggested the person appeared cautious and aware of their surroundings. Detectives reportedly studied movement patterns, timing, and possible routes connected to the activity captured on camera. Investigators also examined whether the individual may have visited the area before Nancy disappeared. At the same time, online communities following the case became heavily focused on the image. People compared screenshots, debated facial features, and shared theories across social media platforms. Authorities repeatedly warned the public not to identify or accuse anyone without verified evidence. Despite the speculation, investigators reportedly continued treating the footage as an important part of the case timeline. Meanwhile, forensic analysts worked alongside detectives, comparing the surveillance evidence with DNA results, witness statements, and phone activity connected to Nancy's final known hours. As those efforts continued, another disturbing possibility emerged. Could someone connected to Nancy's daily life have unknowingly shared details about her routines, schedule, or personal affairs before the disappearance occurred? Investigators reportedly continued examining that possibility while reviewing communication records and personal connections surrounding the case. And according to reports discussed publicly, another key area soon became central to the investigation: Nancy's digital timeline. If you're enjoying this documentary series, don't forget to like the video, share your thoughts respectfully in the comments, and subscribe, because the next chapter uncovers the phone records and digital evidence investigators reportedly reviewed closely. As investigators continued rebuilding the timeline surrounding Nancy Guthrie's disappearance, phone records reportedly became one of the most important areas of focus in the case. Detectives allegedly reviewed incoming calls, outgoing conversations, text activity, and digital communication patterns connected to Nancy's final known hours. Investigators reportedly wanted to determine whether Nancy had spoken with anyone unusual shortly before she disappeared. Authorities also examined whether there were sudden changes in communication habits during the days leading up to the incident. According to crime experts discussing the case publicly, detectives reportedly compared phone activity with surveillance timestamps and witness statements collected during the investigation. The goal was simple: identify whether any communication matched suspicious movements captured near the property during the overnight hours. Meanwhile, online speculation surrounding Nancy's personal life continued spreading rapidly. Some people believed someone close to Nancy may have known more than they admitted. Others argued investigators were still missing critical pieces of the timeline. Authorities repeatedly urged the public to focus only on verified information, while detectives continued reviewing evidence. At the same time, forensic teams reportedly worked to analyze digital data alongside DNA evidence and surveillance footage already collected during the case. Despite months of investigation, authorities still had not publicly identified a suspect. But according to reports surrounding the case, investigators believed another breakthrough could come from advanced forensic testing already underway. And as public attention intensified, the investigation entered an even more critical phase. If you're following this documentary, make sure you like the video, share your thoughts respectfully below, and subscribe. Nearly 95 days after Nancy Guthrie disappeared, investigators reportedly continued focusing heavily on forensic evidence collected during the earliest stages of the case. According to crime experts discussing the investigation publicly, DNA evidence may represent one of the strongest opportunities investigators have to identify whoever was involved in Nancy's disappearance. Authorities reportedly submitted certain evidence for advanced forensic testing, including modern DNA analysis methods capable of identifying individuals through family connections and genealogy databases. That development quickly generated national attention. Many people following the case believed the forensic testing could eventually reveal the identity of the suspicious figure reportedly captured near Nancy's property during the overnight timeline investigators reconstructed. At the same time, discussions involving disagreements between federal authorities and local investigators continued spreading online. Crime analysts publicly debated whether delays during the earliest days of the investigation may have affected evidence preservation or testing procedures. Despite the criticism, authorities insisted the investigation remained active and ongoing. Meanwhile, detectives reportedly continued reviewing witness statements, surveillance footage, and digital records while waiting for additional forensic results connected to the case. For investigators, every detail mattered. A single DNA match, a previously overlooked witness statement, or one small inconsistency within the timeline. Any of those details could potentially change the direction of the investigation completely. But while forensic teams focused on evidence, another disturbing issue continued growing online. Public suspicion surrounding whether critical mistakes made during the first hours after Nancy disappeared may have permanently affected the case. If you're enjoying this true crime documentary, make sure you like the video, share it with others interested in criminal investigations, and subscribe, because the next chapter examines the growing public backlash surrounding the investigation. As weeks passed without major answers in Nancy Guthrie's disappearance, public frustration surrounding the investigation continued growing across social media, news broadcasts, and online true crime communities. Many people following the case began questioning whether investigative decisions made during the earliest hours may have affected critical evidence connected to Nancy's disappearance. Crime experts publicly discussed concerns involving scene security, evidence handling, and the speed of the initial response after Nancy vanished. At the same time, online speculation intensified surrounding Sheriff Chris Nanos and the role local investigators played during the first stages of the case. Some commentators accused law enforcement of underestimating the seriousness of the situation before evidence reportedly suggested possible violence near the property. Others defended investigators, arguing authorities were working under enormous pressure with limited information available during the earliest moments of the case. Meanwhile, Nancy's disappearance continued receiving national attention. Television programs, forensic experts, and online investigators continued analyzing every public detail connected to the case. Surveillance footage, DNA testing, witness accounts, and digital evidence all became subjects of intense public discussion. Despite the growing criticism, authorities repeatedly emphasized that detectives continued pursuing active leads every day. Investigators also urged the public not to interfere with the case by spreading false information or accusing individuals without verified evidence. Still, one haunting question continued dominating online conversations. Could the investigation have looked completely different if critical decisions during the first hours had been handled another way? As public pressure increased, investigators reportedly turned attention back toward one crucial detail connected to the case timeline: the final confirmed movements connected to Nancy before she disappeared. If you're following this documentary series, make sure you like the video, share your thoughts respectfully in the comments, and subscribe. For investigators working the Nancy Guthrie case, establishing an accurate timeline became one of the most important parts of the entire investigation. Detectives reportedly spent weeks reviewing surveillance footage, digital records, witness statements, and phone activity connected to Nancy's final known movements. Authorities allegedly focused heavily on reconstructing the overnight hours leading up to Nancy's disappearance. According to crime analysts discussing the case publicly, investigators compared timestamps from surveillance recordings with communication data and movement patterns identified near the property. Every minute mattered. Detectives reportedly wanted to determine exactly when suspicious activity began and whether Nancy's disappearance followed a planned sequence of events. Meanwhile, investigators also examined whether anyone connected to Nancy's personal or professional life had unusual interactions with her during the days before she vanished. At the same time, online communities following the investigation continued debating whether the suspicious figure reportedly captured near the property was directly connected to the disappearance. Authorities have not publicly confirmed the identity of the individual. Still, investigators reportedly continued treating the footage as a critical piece of evidence. As forensic testing and evidence reviews continued, another disturbing possibility remained under discussion. Could someone familiar with Nancy's routine have provided information that unintentionally helped whoever was responsible? Detectives reportedly continued exploring every possibility while reviewing communication patterns and witness interviews tied to the case. One reality remained unchanged. Nancy Guthrie was still missing, and investigators believe the answer to the case was hidden somewhere within the timeline they continued reconstructing. If you're enjoying this documentary, make sure you like the video, share it with fellow true crime viewers, and subscribe, because the next chapter focuses on the unanswered questions investigators still cannot explain. Nearly 95 days after Nancy Guthrie disappeared, investigators continue searching for answers while the case remains one of the most discussed true crime investigations online. Authorities reportedly continue reviewing surveillance footage, DNA evidence, witness statements, and digital records connected to Nancy's disappearance. Detectives believe critical details may still exist somewhere within the evidence already collected. But despite months of investigation, several disturbing questions remain unanswered. Who was the suspicious individual reportedly captured near the property? Why did reports involving possible evidence of violence emerge during the earliest stages of the case? Could investigative delays have affected critical forensic evidence? And was Nancy specifically targeted? At the same time, public attention surrounding the investigation continues growing. Crime experts, online investigators, and national media programs continue examining every development connected to the case. Authorities, however, continue urging the public to separate verified facts from speculation. Meanwhile, forensic specialists reportedly remain hopeful that advanced DNA testing and digital analysis could still lead investigators toward a breakthrough capable of identifying whoever was involved. For Nancy's family and investigators, the search for answers continues every single day. Because somewhere within the surveillance footage, forensic evidence, digital records, or witness accounts, authorities believe the truth still exists. And until investigators uncover that missing piece, the mystery surrounding Nancy Guthrie's disappearance continues haunting everyone following the case. If you followed this documentary from beginning to end, make sure you like the video, share your thoughts respectfully below, and subscribe to the channel for future updates, true crime investigations, and breaking developments connected to the Nancy Guthrie case. As the investigation into Nancy Guthrie's disappearance continued approaching the 100-day mark, authorities reportedly intensified efforts to uncover new leads capable of breaking the case open. Federal investigators, forensic analysts, and local detectives allegedly continued reviewing surveillance footage, DNA evidence, witness statements, and digital timelines connected to the night Nancy vanished. According to crime experts discussing the case publicly, investigators believe the answer may already exist somewhere within the evidence collected during the first days after the disappearance. The challenge is identifying the one detail that changes everything. Meanwhile, advances in forensic technology reportedly gave investigators renewed hope. Analysts continued discussing how modern DNA testing and digital analysis have solved many major criminal investigations that once appeared impossible to crack. At the same time, online communities following the case remain deeply divided. Some people believed mistakes during the earliest hours permanently damaged the investigation. Others argued authorities still possessed enough evidence to eventually uncover the truth behind Nancy's disappearance. As public pressure continued growing, investigators reportedly revisited witness statements and digital records multiple times, searching for inconsistencies or overlooked information connected to the timeline. Authorities also continued urging the public to submit tips, surveillance recordings, or any information connected to unusual activity near Nancy's property during the overnight hours she disappeared. Despite months passing without major public answers, detectives insist the case remains active. And according to investigators, even the smallest overlooked clue could still become the breakthrough that changes the entire investigation. If you're following this true crime documentary, make sure you like the video, share your thoughts respectfully in the comments, and subscribe, because the next chapter explores the chilling mystery that still surrounds Nancy Guthrie's disappearance today. The mystery that remains. Nearly 100 days after Nancy Guthrie disappeared, investigators are still searching for the truth behind one of the most closely followed missing person investigations in the country. Authorities reportedly continue analyzing forensic evidence, surveillance footage, digital records, and witness accounts connected to the night Nancy vanished from her Arizona home. But despite the ongoing investigation, many questions still remain unanswered. Crime experts discussing the case publicly continue debating whether early investigative decisions may have affected the direction of the case. Others believe advanced forensic testing and modern DNA analysis could still provide investigators with the breakthrough they need. At the center of the mystery remains the suspicious activity reportedly captured near Nancy's property during the overnight timeline investigators reconstructed. Authorities have not publicly confirmed the identity of the individual connected to that footage. Meanwhile, public attention surrounding the case continues growing online. True crime communities, television programs, and independent investigators continue examining every update connected to the disappearance. Investigators, however, repeatedly urge the public to focus only on verified information while the case remains active. For Nancy's family, the uncertainty continues every day, and for detectives working the investigation, the goal remains unchanged: find the truth. Whether the answer comes through DNA evidence, surveillance footage, witness testimony, or one final overlooked clue, investigators reportedly believe the mystery surrounding Nancy Guthrie's disappearance can still be solved. Until then, the questions surrounding the case continue haunting everyone following the investigation. What really happened the night Nancy disappeared? And who still knows more than they've admitted? If you enjoyed this documentary series, make sure you like the video, share it with fellow true crime viewers, and subscribe to the channel for future updates, breaking crime investigations, and unsolved mystery documentaries.